Hey guys, Thomas Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. If you end up enjoying this full movie review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One, why I drove to my petition, second and third to my Patreon and PayPal, fourth to my Discord server. Any and all donations are greatly appreciated, and shilling will be reminded at the end of the review. With all that said, let's get into Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. So I've seen the trailer for this, I want to say like twice before seeing the movie, as well as, of course, watching the original Puss in Boots movie, and then, actually, before this, I actually started watching the mini-series, that was like, I don't know how many seasons it was, but nonetheless, I started to give that a little watch on the offhand. Not something that I'm going to officially review here, but because I didn't finish it. But nonetheless, this is about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. So, here we go. With all that out of the way, the movie starts with a narrative from Puss's perspective. So, they're having a festival that he is sort of the ringleader of, and he sings about how he has become quite the hero. And the people are obviously infatuated and all need a burrito in the neighborhood. So, this ruler guy breaks in and says, "You broke into my house and you are now being arrested," while their noise has accumulated well enough to wake this giant tree monster, which provokes Puss in Boots to fight against it and, held it back. However, in the process of surpassing this beast, he is hit with a bell, and when he wakes up, he's in a doctor's area. And he's asked very directly how many times he has died, and he goes over the amount of times he has died, and he counts 8. So the doctor clearly says that you're down to your last life, as a very note of sort of this hint of this thing about cats having 9 lives is the subtext here. And during his bar run, this wolf appears next to him, and Puss in Boots proceeds to fight the wolf. However, this little wolf character, or rather large wolf character, nearly ends Puss in Boots' little run here, his final run, but he's able to escape, and he puts that into full effect. So, speaking of cats, my cat is making noise, but, so, he's like, I'm not ready for this, so he runs off, and proceeded to get picked up by this cat lady named Luna, who picks him up and, is treated like all the other cats, which he's not a fan of, as we see in passage of time, as he grows out the beard we see in the trailers. After the fact, we cut to another typical or folk tale legend, Goldilocks. Sorry, I was going to say something else, but and her 3 bears. But they're on the hunt, sort of like again, flipping their narrative on these traditional fairy tales and making them the antagonists is something they did in the original Puss in Boots movie. So, in the meanwhile, Puss in Boots meets this dog character, the one on the lower right there of the poster, and he literally asks what the hell is wrong with this dog. So, they're not above almost swearing and giving into certain locations or fictitious locations like hell. So, you know, very antithesis of sort of the off the heel of the various Shrek movies, obviously, and getting really, really, like, always consistently on the verge of, like, saying the direct, thing. Anyways, so they see the gravesite where Puss in Boots has laid to rest his boots, his hat, and his sword. So they see Puss in Boots without all of that, and they're like, oh, well, that's not him. So they sneak around, Puss in Boots sneaks away. All the while, I noted that the dog's name is Pedro. I think that's what they call them in the early portion of the movie. I think that's incorrect, actually, but that's what I wrote, so I'll just call him that for the sake of simplicity, since I don't remember his actual character name, unfortunately. Anyway, we get treated to another sort of lesser known, I suppose, and based off of the dialogue, seems to also insinuate a lesser known fairy tale known as Big Jack, who gets this little box thing. And we see his little past aggression as he was pitted against a movie I just reviewed. He's against Pinocchio without the strings, so I just reviewed Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, so definitely check that review out if you haven't already. Anyway, the return of Kitty is the next thing that occurs, as she's also coming in ready for the steal of this map that they learned about, that I am telling you now about. And Goldie returns as well, so they're all on the hunt. And in the process, the two of them, Puss in Boots and Kitty, steal this carpet and, at least for a temporary point, but are forced to flee on foot. They exit with Pedro in tow. Again, that's not his, I don't think that's his name, but that's what I'm calling him. But during this escape, sorry about that, I'm just gonna leave that in, whatever. During their escape, they see, Puss in Boots sees the wolf in the crowd. So now he feels like he's being hunted by this consistent figure of the wolf. So they head into the dark forest, where they say the map is leading them, and jump into the portal that separates them from, I guess, where they were before. So this little map shows them as they are progressing. It shows them on the map where they are in conjunction to where the star of this last wish is. And so, as they scroll out to this map, and they have the three little icons, whenever one of the character touches the map, it suits to that particular character, which is a very interesting way of sort of giving us character insight. That is very creative. I didn't actually see that coming, at least initially, and as they progressed to use it and mess with that sort of dynamic, it got really interesting in terms of, again, giving us more insights to what the characters, sort of kind of want in a way. Or, as both of the cats, that being Puss in Boots and Kitty, get these more dangerous, sort of adventurous, sort of map iterations that are slightly different from one another. But in comparison, the dog Pedro, not the name, but whatever, I'm just gonna let my cat meow for this review. It's fitting, I guess. So, as I was saying, Pedro gets this nice, beautiful, easy peasy, sort of set, and that's where they spent the next large junction of time is setting through this. However, they make it more difficult on themselves as they still see it as a persistent threat as they get to the first initial sort of, there are like 3 of these sections that lead before the star, but it shifts, as I said, depending on who is holding the scroll at the time. And so with the dog, it's literally like this field, of a pocket full of posies. And thus, we get sort of the reinforcement of the theme here, is where the dog is sniffing the flowers and they're letting him by, and the other 2 are trying to, rush past it and, sort of rushing through life, kind of like letting it rush you by. Again, sort of showing the theme rather than telling it, even though they kind of also simultaneously do. But I do like this more reinforced version of it, where it's like you can kind of pick up what they're putting down visually speaking. I really do think that's a very good highlight of this movie. So as they're traveling, since Pedro is a new character to the ensemble here, we get to learn of his backstory as the other dogs in his dog group leave him behind, and in this game of hide and seek, where they put him in this sock costume that's smaller and they fit into it as he describes. Thus, John, from before, also, or Jack, or John, whatever his name was, also joins in the fray and the hunt with Goldilocks also in tow on this map journey. So they're added to the map thing. And again, getting back to that really crazy humor, or, just outright killing people, that's what happens, is, like, the men get there, and one of them gets killed by a flower, and he literally gets turned into a skeleton. I don't know how you get more dead than that, so, that's, again, very, direct. So, as they continue shifting through, Kitty helps shave Puss in Boots back to his more handsome, not bearded face. When they toss a stick, the dog goes for it, and he gets caught up by the others, allowing Jack and Goldie to catch up. And so they're all after the map. And this is where Goldie gets the map at this point in the movie. So this is where she gets their location, which brings them back to their hut or house. And they consistently use the nursery rhyme of the porridge too hot, the porridge too cold, and the porridge just right, consistently throughout her character's entire journey. Which also includes her wish, which is to get a family that is just right. She doesn't initially think that her family, or her adopted bear family, is the right family for her, upon, initial part of the movie, so her end of the journey, even though an antagonist, is to get that all sorted out. So, all the while, sort of a side plot that we are introduced pretty late in the film to is that Puss in Boots and Kitty were set to be married. But Puss in Boots walked out, being all fearful of that whole aspect of things. So the bears go to their home, and they're, relieved. And we cut back to only find out that Kitty didn't actually also go to the wedding either. So it was more so about just sort of this initial feeling, I guess. Anyways, Jack's wish, by comparison to even all of that, as an antagonist, is to have all of the magic in the world and to be like this over-consuming of like, just give me everything, essentially, but with magic. Is like beyond and beyond of like, okay, that's a little bit too far, I guess. Even according to the film, because that's what ends up happening, so spoiler alert, I guess, early, whatever. Anyway, Kitty shifts the map once again, and it gets, again, we get these really creative, like, mix-ups where it's, like, in between these two sort of sets as she's, like, holding on to it with another character. But they get split from Pedro. Puss in Boots, though, gets the map and shifts the area again, and he gets, like, crystallized, stuck, separated from the rest of the group. So he's surrounded by his previous lives, where they're all singing that song from the intro back at him, and he kind of gets hooked back into it. However, the wolf from earlier is on the prowl once again. And this is where Puss in Boots finally puts it together that this wolf represents death, and that death has been hunting him this entire time. So, this is where Goldie officially reveals that she wants this real family, and that upsets the abducted family, obviously, initially. But the mother's like, I'll still try to help you out despite that, which is really nice, all things considered. But during their kerfuffle of trying to get the map, there's like this outer layer that's like surrounding them as they're like at the star at this point, like they're all there. They just have to make the wish out of the wish spell. So they have to read what's on the map, which is like the star, bright star, I wish upon a star tonight thing. So they have to wait for the text to appear and read that, essentially. So Goldie has the opportunity to do it first, but one of her bears gets like pulled into this like ether thing that's like separating him, and we see like other things that were pulled into this ether thing sort of just vanish into nothingness. So Goldie chooses her family instead of the wish, which is sort of her getting her wish, so she kind of gets into her head at this point in the movie. Like after the whole family debacle, so it's a short thing, but it's really neat, is what I'll say. So Death gets there, and Puss fights Death, and after their intense fight, Death lets Puss in Boots go, saying that he's not the fearful type anymore, and now that he's not fearing Death anymore, that Death has nothing to reap anymore. He's after that fearful Puss in Boots. So Jack gets the opportunity to get to the wish. However, once he has grasped it, the dog had been trained to do the Puss in Boots / Kitty eye thing. He does it successfully, but he is not phased. However, it grants the others opportunity to pull the map away, and I mean all three of them, Puss in Boots, Kitty, and Goldie, all have the map, and they all rip it up. A trio of them, in this little ending sequence, seeing that they kind of have what they wanted in a weird sort of way. And she tells the bears this, and the others, Puss in Boots does the same with Kitty. Kitty does the same thing with Puss in Boots, because she had trust issues, and he was, the one who wanted more lives, but, seeing how he confronted Death in that way. And Perito, as I put in the end of the notes, I think that's what he was actually called, sticks with the name that he was given, at the beginning of the movie, and continues to follow them on the boat as they sort of steal from the beginning guy's treasury or whatever, and they go off to the far, far away land where to reunite with Shrek, which I guess is some sort of like attempt to be like, hey, there's a new Shrek movie in the works, I think. And that was Puss in Boots and the Last Wish. Pretty fun stuff. All the wish portion of the last sequence is pretty neat, how they handle the wish map element, and again, all of that stuff is really neat. The comedy, pretty strong here. In terms of flaws, I don't know if I can point out any, like, critical issues I have with this movie. I would say it's an overall positive movie. Even minor gripes, I'm having a little bit issues, like, thinking of anything off the top of my head. So for the time being as objective as possible, I'll currently give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's slightly above average. So yeah, that's my full review, and if you ended up enjoying my full review of Puss in Boots and the Last Wish, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition, second to my Patreon and PayPal, fourth to my Discord server. Any and all donations are greatly appreciated, and until next time everyone, bye bye!